one of the biggest decisions that any mangaka of a long-running series is going to have to make is how and when to kill off certain characters. If it's a seinen manga series, then you can have a lot more bloodshed. In fact, there's several series that I've read, such as Gantz, where main characters die all the fucking time and it's still a good story. But when it comes to shonen, you have to dial back the bloodshed a little bit. But in order to make the story believable, you also have to have characters die sometimes, or otherwise you get that immortality syndrome shit. So this doesn't happen too much with One Piece, although some people might say that the immortality syndrome does exist with One Piece because not a lot of characters die. I will rectify that claim. Characters die in One Piece. In fact, there's been a shit ton of characters that have died in One Piece. Just always in flashbacks. In the present storyline, I will admit, though, there isn't that much death. But at the same time, Oda doesn't usually cock tease us with this either. It's not like you have a big, epic moment every single arc where a character looks like he's going to die and then turns out to be alive later on. Even when you get to the final battle between Luffy and the main antagonist of that arc, it's made very clear that while Luffy might pummel the shit out of the villains, sometimes rendering them fucking comatose, he doesn't actually kill them because Luffy doesn't swing that way. The thing that always irritates me, and I know a lot of other fans of manga, is that when you have a character that the fans get to know really well, sometimes even a main character, and that character is going to sacrifice themselves for a cause or to protect somebody else, and then usually you have an entire chapter of a manga where it's just like a heartfelt goodbye to this character, like, goodbye, we love you, oh my god, you're doing this for us, it's so amazing, and there's tears running down people's faces, and they go to sacrifice themselves, and you as a fan are very emotional as well. And then if that character turns out to survive, then you felt betrayed. You feel like, okay, then you just fucked with me for no reason. Thank you for that. So Oda doesn't do that all that much, but the one example in the One Piece story that people always will bring up, even though it happened over, you know, this episode aired in 2002, it happened a long time ago in the Alabasta arc, but it's the one thing people will always cite as one of those cock-teasing moments where it looks like a character's gonna die, very emotional death scene, and then turns out to just be fine and dandy at the end of it. And that would be Pell, the strongest warrior in all of Alabasta, one of the guardians of the palace, the eater of the bird fruit model falcon, and the guardian deity of all of Alabasta. Now, Pell was not a main character. In fact, he was actually introduced during the latter stages of the Alabasta arc. I mean, I seem to like him. He had a cool design and everything. I like the facial tattoos and the design, and he was reportedly as the strongest warrior that Alabasta had to offer. That was a little bit short-sighted when you see that Nico Robin took him out in pretty much the first fight he was in. But he was a pretty strong dude. He was able to get back up after that and fly Luffy all the way to Alubarna, and he was a pretty skilled fighter in his own right, at least amidst normal warriors. You know, he was the greatest. So what happened was that Crocodile was kind of a dick. Wait, no, take that back. Crocodile was a dick, and he was going to set a bomb to blow up all of Alubarna. Now, I'm not going to go all map pad on you and try to figure out, you know, the exact dimensions and the size of the city and the blast radius, mostly because I have no fucking idea where to even begin with that. But to suffice it to say that Alubarna is a pretty big city. It's the capital city of Alabasta. You have the royal palace there. The whole city's kind of raised up above the desert with these massive stairwells on the sides. And the explosion was reportedly strong enough to wipe the entire city off the face of the map, so it would be kind of like an atomic blast in that regard. So what Pell did is that he was going to sacrifice himself to save the city, turned into his falcon form, grabbed the bomb, it was like a time bomb thing, and then he flew straight up when it detonated, and the entire blast pretty much took up the majority of the sky above Alubarna, and we were led to believe that Pell had sacrificed himself. He was taking up the role as the guardian deity of Alabasta, and he saved everyone so Luffy could focus on defeating Crocodile, which he eventually did. And it was a very emotional scene, despite that Pell wasn't a main character or anything like that. Okay, here's the thing. He survived this. And that's what pissed a lot of people off. And it wasn't like he survived it and it was like a big event of, you know, Pell turning out to be alive or whatever. It was pretty much just shoved at the very last chapter, or the last episode of the arc, where we cut to this random fucking hospital out in the middle of the desert where this doctor is treating Pell, and apparently he's been there for a few days, like 4 or 5 days or some such, and he was treated, and he was, you know, still not exactly healed yet, and the doctor even told him you should stay, but he decided to head back to Alubarna to, you know, continue his duties as a palace guard, and, you know, to help with the reconstruction and everything like that. So recently I'm rewatching the Alabasta arc and I'm thinking, okay, is there any fucking logical reason? Is there anything that we can grab onto here that can explain how Pell survived this fucking giant-ass explosion? And I found a few explanations that are kind of grasping at straws. But if you just want the reason, like the meta reason why Oda chose to keep Pell alive, it's because he just didn't want to end the arc on a dampening note. He didn't want to be it like Pell died and then like everything else is great. You know, Luffy defeats Crocodile, the kingdom is restored, Vivi becomes the princess. Oh, it's a happy ending, but Pell died. And I guess Oda didn't want to do it. He thought it was going to be too much of a sad ending. So that's why Pell survived. If you just wanted that reason, there you go. But now trying to look at the actual act of what happened and trying to figure out how he could have possibly survived this, I have a few ideas. So the first thing I should note is that we don't actually see the bomb detonate while he's holding it. Alright, the panels go like this. They're laid out with one panel with Pell grabbing the bomb and taking it up to the sky, and the next panel is just the bomb, you know, reaching zero, and then the next panel is just the huge-ass fucking detonation. Now, this is manga land we're talking about, kids, where people can jump into the air and stay airborne for, you know, seconds upon minutes upon hours, depending on what scene you're watching. So it's an abuse of cinematic timing is what I'm getting across here. So for all the fuck we know, the differences between just these two panels right here on the left could be several seconds. Fuck, several minutes for all we know. We just don't. In fact, I would probably say they would have to be, because if this thing detonated while Pell was holding onto it, you would have to make the argument unless Pell is made of fucking adamantium, he would be incinerated down to the bones. So I'm going to assume that, yeah, there is an abuse of timing here and that there is a little gap between these panels. Now, most of you might just say, that's bullshit, Matt. You're trying to justify it too much, and alright, I've already lost you. You could probably just click back. But even with that being the case, I'm not saying that he's going to outrun the entire, you know, explosion. Just the absolute worst of it. One thing that you have to consider here, and I'm not an expert on explosions, but I understand the fact that explosions, you know, they radiate outwards, right? And there's a shockwave involved in that too. So wouldn't it be possible is if that Pell got away from like the, you know, the worst of the blast, he got hit by the shockwave and that really threw him for a ringer and that really caused him a lot of damage and he got sent, you know, spiraling out of the sky and landed in the fucking desert. You know, he still had a lot of damage. He was still fucking like in the hospital for like 4 or 5 days, probably fucking comatose. He has a big ass scar on him, so he certainly took damage. It's not like he just landed and then walked away from the fucking thing. But wouldn't it be possible? And I thought, alright, well, in order for that to be possible, if he did do that, let's say he flew up into the sky and he either let go of the bomb and then, you know, sped away, or he, like, chucked the bomb up and then flew away, or did something like that, he would have to be really fucking fast in order to get away from that explosion, or at least to get away from the worst of the explosion. Here's the thing I found, though. Do you want to know what the fastest animal on the planet is, on our planet Earth? You might be thinking it's the cheetah. The cheetah is the fastest land animal. It can reach speeds up in the higher 60s, low 70s, you know, miles per hour. But there are actually animals that can go faster than the cheetah. The cheetah is not the absolute end-all, be-all for the fastest animals on the earth. The black marlin's one of the fastest fish that can reach over 80 miles per hour. A horsefly can reach over 90 miles per hour. But the absolute peak of it, the fastest animal ever recorded on the face of this planet, is the peregrine falcon, who can reach speeds of over 240 miles per fucking hour, over 380 kilometers per hour. That is fucking fast. Now, how the peregrine falcon does that is he can't reach it when it's, you know, traveling horizontally, but it does this dive bomb thing, you know, where it, you know, flies really high up in the air and then just dive bombs, and that's when it can reach this, you know, incredible breakneck speeds of over 200 miles per fucking hour. All right? Now, Pell, interesting to note, is in fact a falcon. He's the bird fruit model falcon. We don't know the exact species, but the fact that, you know, the fastest animal on the earth is a falcon, and the fact that Pell can turn into a falcon, there might be some comparison there. There might be some reasons why Oda did that. So, with that being the case, let's say that, Pell's flying really high up in the sky and then just chucks the bomb because Pell's pretty strong, so he was able to lift the damn thing. This is a huge-ass time bomb we're talking about here, this giant fucking spherical thing. He was strong enough to lift it on his own power and then fly super high up into the air, and this was all, within a short amount of time, relatively. So, he's a pretty strong dude. I can understand that he flew up, just chucked the fucking thing and just like, let's get the fuck out of here, and then just starts to dive bomb away in some random direction. I think it would at least be possible that he could maybe get away from the hypocenter of that blast and then just, he still got hit with the blast in some respect, and then the shockwave just fucking threw him for a loop, and he just went, maybe knocked unconscious and spiraled into the fucking sand of the desert. That's another thing, too. Landing in the desert, soft sand, different from just, splattering on the fucking concrete or something like that. Also, as I said, Pell's a pretty durable dude. He doesn't have hockey or anything, but he's pretty durable. Nico Robin basically broke, bent his back, completely like a 45-degree angle, and he was able to get back up after that fairly quickly. He's been training for fucking years in Alubarna, basically, to protect it. He was their strongest warrior. So, a little bit more durable than the average human is what I'm getting across here. So that's one idea. But there's another one I liked, simply because I get to talk about mythology, and we all know how much I like mythology. Okay, so the two guardians of the royal palace are Chaka and Pell, who represent actual ancient Egyptian deities. Now, Alubasta and Alubarna, these are cities, and this is an island that's in a desert. It's a desert kingdom, so there was obviously a lot of cues that Oda took from Egyptian mythology here, right? So, you have Chaka, who represents Anubis, the god of the dead, and you have Pell that represents Horus, the god of the sky. And they turn in their respective animals. They ate the zone fruit, so, Chaka can turn into a jackal, Pell a falcon. And this is stated when Pell takes the bomb, and apparently the last thing he says is, I am the guardian deity of Alubasta. Now, I'm not going to go into super detail on this because this isn't a fucking history lesson, but basically Horus, the god of the sky in ancient Egyptian mythology, is the son of Isis and Osiris, as well as being a rival to this guy named Seth. No, not that Seth, this Seth. Seth was kind of a dick, killed Osiris, which is Horus's dad, and then Horus and him fought a shit ton of times, a lot of blood. Bottom line is that Seth lost a testicle, and that Horus lost an eye, but Horus did come out victorious, okay? So this leads a lot of fans to at least speculate that because there's so much, there's so many similarities here between Pell and Horus in ancient Egyptian mythology, that Pell actually had a little bit of protection from the divine. He had, like, some godly protection. When I said I was grasping at straws, that's basically what I think. So it's more of just like, a symbolic thing, like he's the guardian deity, and so he was doing this great deed, protecting his homeland, fulfilling the role of a protecting god, and so he was given, another chance at life or something like that. I think it makes a lot more sense. Although, if that was the case, if that was the way we were going to spin it, we were going to go with it, I would have liked it a lot more if Pell would have lost an eye in the explosion, because that's what happened with the battle between Horus and Seth in the mythology. That was, he lost an eye. So that'd be cool if, he does have a badass scar on his chest from the explosion, but that's pretty much all he got. You think he would be a little bit more banged up after that. But yeah, so at least those are two reasons. They're not the best fucking reasons, but they're the best I could come up with. If you're still, just like, no, Oda he dropped the ball on this one. He didn't want to kill anybody, and he just decided to make that decision at the last minute. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it would have been a lot more fucking upsetting if Pell was more of a main character, right? If he was like one of the Straw Hats, or even if it was like Vivi or something pulling that shit, where Vivi decided to, sacrifice herself, and she turned out to be alive at the end of the day after this big emotional goodbye moment. That would have been a lot more annoying. But maybe Oda viewed Pell as just, he's just this, he's a side character, but at the same time, I don't want to kill him off because he's a good guy. And people like him. Maybe he had a lot of fan support back then. I don't know exactly what the statement of, like, what the fans thought about these characters back then. There's probably a popularity poll at some point. Yeah, but I'm not giving Oda a complete break with this. I still think it could have been handled a little bit better, because the way that it is written, the way that it is drawn, does give the appearance that Oda did not plan on Pell surviving this. You think that if Oda, who's fairly good at foreshadowing a lot of times, you think that if Oda really planned on Pell surviving this, like when he drew that scene, he would have left 1 or 2 scenes in where, I don't know, Pell lets go with a bomb, or you see something flying away, or something something like that. But no, it really does give the appearance that Oda, oh, let's have this emotional moment where he dies, and then at the very last minute he's like, all right, let's keep him alive because I don't want to do that. But at least those are 2 reasons. Pell can turn into the fastest animal alive, and also keep in mind that Pell, is not just the peregrine falcon. He's also like a human that has trained a lot. So in fact, he might actually be faster than that, the 240 miles per hour. He might actually figure out a way to get faster than that, and that actually lends more belief to what he could do. He's also a pretty strong, durable guy, so, getting knocked out of the sky after an explosion, shockwave, maybe survive for a little bit longer after that, or on near death if it wasn't for that doctor. Here, that's the real fucking question, is that's probably the thing that pisses me off more than Pell surviving, is that there's a random fucking hospital, this one like this small-ass one-room building of a hospital out in the middle of the fucking desert for no goddamn reason, and that Pell must have landed remarkably close to this fucking thing. I mean, seriously, what kind of business does this doctor get? Like, what does he do? This really does give the idea that Oda just threw it in last minute. And then the other idea I like about, Pell being protected by the gods themselves. At least it's a little more poetic. I do enjoy that. But anyway, what do you guys think about the whole issue with Pell surviving the explosion? What other manga or anime have you guys watched or read that involves characters, having the big emotional moment where they're gonna die and you get really teary-eyed for them, and then you turn out that just like the author was just circle jerking you the entire time? Hero does that a lot with Fairy Tail, but that's a whole other can of worms we'll get to another day. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Tekking101 signing out.